The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. Hosted by Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. We have just a great guest tonight. I'm so pleased and honored to have Harriet Schock, Grammy-nominated, multi-platinum winning songwriter, singer, actor, teacher. But, you know, again, for the second time, I have a co-host out in LA, Dan Jablons, my friend. So welcome to the show again, Dan.
Hey, Dave, thanks for being here. And once again, I've taken this opportunity to elbow my way onto your show because Harriet Schock is a longtime friend and a teacher of mine and just a fantastic celebrity artist. And so I wanted the opportunity to join you in this interview. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And, you know, without further ado, we'll bring her in. So Harriet Schock, welcome to the show, Harriet.
Well, thank you very much.
Harriet, you know, growing up, my mom's favorite artist was Helen Reddy. And I was fortunate enough to see her in concert at the Minnesota State Fair with Manhattan Transfer as the opening act. And, but, you know, just Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady and Mama and, you know, some of the songs you've written. I mean, obviously, you know, the star, everybody hears the song and they see the videos and hear the music, but there's always somebody behind that hit song. You know, so talk about being a songwriter and how did you get started in that industry being a songwriter?
Well, I actually, my first album was called Hollywood Town. And on that album was Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady, which got played on the radio just enough for Helen Reddy to hear it. So when she recorded it, she was nice enough to fly me to Las Vegas to meet her and hear her sing it. And she introduced me from the stage. She was very nice. But at some point after my album was out and she had recorded it, it was not the title song. It was the title song of her album, but not the single. Okay. So her husband, manager, Jeff Wald, called me when I was visiting my parents in Dallas and said, "It looks like you have a hit. The radio stations have gone on this album cut of your song and you have a hit." So they forced it out as a single. So you asked me what it's like being the songwriter. I didn't really understand. All I knew was it wasn't my record, but yeah. I was thrilled that I had a hit. So it helped my career to begin with because I was a songwriter who recorded her own songs. And so then I was more successful as a songwriter, just not as known as a singer.
Yeah, but I mean, that's some of the people you worked with. I mean, Smokey Robinson and Johnny Mathis. I mean, these are amazing, you know, that played your music. I mean, that sang your music and, you know, and yourself as an artist as well coming up and just, you know, the accolades that you've gotten. And, you know, way back when you started, I mean, music was obviously different than it is today as far as the way it's, you know, produced maybe or distributed. So talk about your thoughts on the evolution of music since you started through today. I mean, obviously decades later, I mean, it's completely changed, but what are your thoughts about today and the streaming services versus when you were recording yourself and, you know, you had to get a distribution deal and, you know, basically get signed in order for people to actually hear your music. So what are your thoughts today with all the streaming platforms out there?
Well, when I was first recording, there were gatekeepers. There were record labels you had to be on in order to get airplay. Right. You couldn't just go on the internet and get fans, you know. Now, I mean, not that you can really do that now because that's the most difficult thing is getting eyeballs on your videos or ears on your streaming. But at the time, if you were what they were looking for, they signed you, they promoted the record. Some labels had better distribution than others, but that was the game. You know, there were gatekeepers. Now, everyone makes a tiny, tiny bit from streaming, and yet it's just more difficult to get enough listeners that actually pay. Today, being a songwriter, if you don't have a song in a film, unless you're, you know, Taylor Swift, it's difficult to get the kind of money you used to get in the 70s.
Well, that actually brings up a really interesting question because you've had an incredible career that has gone on for a very long time, a career that most people would really greatly admire. And yet, this is an industry where there's like, home runs and then nothing, and then home runs and then nothing, and that kind of stuff, right? So, for people that want to make it in this business because you've done such an amazing job with it, right? How do you survive, or how do you stay motivated or stay excited, you know, throughout a career as long as you've had?
Well, I never did it for the money. I was very fortunate to make a lot of money on other people recording my songs in films like New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, all the songs. And that was co-written with Misha Siegel. But lots of films have done it. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would still be doing it, except that I love it more than anything. And if I'm going to perform a concert, I don't want to have no new songs. So I continue writing them, performing them, recording, and I have a series of fans that continue to buy them, luckily. So it is helpful to have the internet now because you can pretty much reach anybody. It's just that it's hard to reach everybody.
Paintings, your album paintings. I want you to talk about that a little bit because as a recording artist, I mean, you're still recording and over all the years, and I know you also teach students, but with your album here, paintings, there's 15 tracks on it. I mean, how did that process go? How long did it take you to put that album together?
Well, it was interesting because I have a band made up of, I play keyboards and sing, and I have a bass player, a cello player, a violin player, and a flute player. They all came in and recorded the album with me. So it was a labor of love. They've always wanted to record their parts that in many cases they came up with for my songs. So this is like a record of what we've been doing in concert over the years. And that's how it happened.
Well, so it's culmination over the years. I mean, I think that's great. And, with your students, I'm curious when you're teaching your students, because again, that's something, like we like to celebrate, students of music and, up and coming singers and so forth. And, so when you're working with them, can you tell right away if somebody's got it, so to speak, as far as the talent goes or hard work, or somebody might take a little more work to get, to the point where they're ready to start recording themselves. I mean, can you tell over your career, just working with somebody if they got it or not?
Well, I can tell if they have a musical ear.
Okay.
And that's something I can't give them.
Right.
I can't tell if they're going to be good lyricists or even if they could be good composers, because you could have the best musical ear. You could read music like Till the Cows Come Home, and you may not be able to write a decent melody. It's a whole separate thing, but having an ear definitely helps. So when they asked me to teach songwriting at USC in 1986, I said it can't be taught. Yeah. So they called me in 87 or was 85 and 86, sure. Whatever. I said, okay. So they guilt squeezed me into doing it. And I taught there for a couple of years. I've been teaching ever since, but I came up with a step-by-step method that tricks the people into doing what I was doing automatically, which is having something to say, knowing what you want to say. Don't just get in the car and start driving and hope you end up in New York, Right. So it is a step-by-step method that takes the effort out of it, but gives you the exact song you want to write to that person in a step-by-step method.
Now, I know the story about USC sort of guilt squeezing you into teaching the class, right? I knew that story. But what I don't know is, since then, you've been teaching for many years. And so what made you decide that you wanted to continue teaching, that was an avenue you wanted to continue to go down? What made you want to, what is it about teaching that you enjoy that enables you to continue teaching after all this time?
Well, I've become a much better songwriter since I started teaching. And it thrills me to see the end product of somebody doing the steps of my course and ending up with these amazing, inspiring songs. And so I couldn't give that up. I mean, once I got hooked on seeing the results of it, I thought, well, this must really be something, these steps I have. I actually had to be convinced that this would work because I was convinced otherwise to begin with. So once I was convinced it was working, I couldn't give it up because of the thrill of seeing these new songs emerge.
And do you feel like, with the new music today, obviously genres of music have kind of evolved themselves over the years, and there's certain decades that are really heavy with maybe alternative rock, and in the 80s it was heavy rock, hard rock, and then became alternative and soft rock even. And so over the years it's kind of evolved. So have you found that when you're teaching younger students, let's say, that their love for a certain kind of music is different from when you maybe taught years ago when there was different genres of music? Have you found that to be true?
Well, see, I've had every genre in my classes. I had hard rock, heavy metal,
Wow,
the R&B, hip hop, mostly though people who really want good melodies and lyrics that say something real. And even in different genres, if you have that, you're ahead of the game. You can't just skip over communication and melody because they got to be there somehow. Even if it's just in the little sing-songy chorus of a rap song, you got to have melody somewhere. And it has to communicate something to somebody. It can't just be gobbledygook.
what do you think of Taylor Swift, just out of curiosity? I mean, just
I
her
love
music.
her.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she's doing, and she's good at everything. And she learned how to do it before she got famous, which is really a plus.
So, having been a student of yours for a long time, I know that the emotional impact of the song is super important to you, right? And that's something that you teach in your classes, is
Yes.
to make sure you hit that emotional impact, right? Is there a song, I mean, of all the songs, I mean, Paintings has a lot of incredible songs. And for those people who are listening who are Harriet Schock fans, if you have not heard Paintings, you need to go get that album because it's fantastic. But is there a song of yours amongst your entire catalog that you think, this song, I wish more people knew this song, or I wish more people were listening to this song? Is there a song of yours that you wish had more airplay than it does?
Well, I have a song that has been on 3 different albums, and no one can remember the name, even though it's obviously the name. It's the first line of the chorus and the last line of the chorus, but it's called You Are. And so many other people have sung it, not famous people necessarily, but people who love it. And of all the songs I've written, it's really one of my favorites. It's not on the Paintings album. It's on American Romance, Rosebud, and my live album.
What's your process for writing music? As I know Dan asked this of Don before, but I'm going to ask you as well. But what's your process? I mean, because sometimes people sit at the piano and play a melody, and then they come up with words. What's your process for writing a song, or do you even have a process that you follow?
Well, let me quote Sammy Kahn. He says, the music or the words, he says, the phone call. In a way, that's my thing too. If somebody needs a song, I can write it. But if I'm just sitting down to write a song, I always have something I want to say. And by that, I don't mean I'm preaching to people. That's a kiss of death. I mean something I want to say to somebody.
Right.
And then that desire to communicate will inspire the beginning of the song. And then I may have a verse, and then the chorus comes from that. But then comes the craft, because you have to fit the second verse to the same melody, and you have to have a bridge. And so I need to know what I really want to say. But when I teach, I divide this up into little increments that are easy to come by, and people are able to do what a professional songwriter would sit down and do. Like if I'm a potter and I want to throw the bowl that's in my mind, I will throw the bowl, but I've been doing it for 50 years. If someone has never thrown a bowl, they have to learn how to use the wheel and the whole thing. So I don't have other people just sit down and write from something they want to say. They have a step-by-step method from something they want to say.
Right. So it's having something to say at the beginning, and and also speaking of having something to say, you're also an author, Becoming Remarkable, your book, and for songwriters and those who love music, and talk about that, because I think you do pretty much everything that you could think of, and I think being an author, just to sit down and actually write a book over your years, I mean, I think it's remarkable in itself to be an author. So talk about the making of that book, and and what people can expect from it when they get it.
I didn't actually sit down to write a book. I had written all these articles that were published around the world, and somebody put them into categories. Naomi Healing was the editor. She put them into categories. And so all these articles have sections, and you can read it and learn a lot about songwriting. My system isn't in there because it requires feedback from me. Yep. But it is, it's a perk in the film, which I'll talk about in a movie. So people are still reading the book, and it seems like even visual artists get something out of it.
Well, I like the part about integrity. I mean, that's one thing I think is important in anything that you do, but integrity, clarity, everything in your technology, obviously has changed, but I implore my readers or my listeners to go out and get this book. It's amazing. So yeah, definitely well done.
Dave reads. See, in this day and age, that someone that reads is sort of an amazing thing, Dave. Besides having the show, you actually read the book.
I do read. Exactly.
Well, Harriet, you mentioned the movie. Let's talk about the movie for a minute. So the movie is called Hollywood Town: The Harriet Schock Story.
That's correct.
And tell us how the movie came to be, and what it was like to actually have the movie. Is the story of your career, which is frankly, it's a lesson in creating a musical career for anyone who watches it. But tell us how the movie came to be. How did it happen?
Well, 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, Tom Solari, who is a filmmaker, came to see my show at the Coffee Gallery backstage. And there were only about 45 people there. And he thought, this is something that there have to be more people who see this. I'm going to make a movie. And so he decided the day that LA closed down for the pandemic, he started the Indiegogo campaign #1. And so he raised enough money to shoot a 2-hour concert with my entire band at a beautiful venue in Hollywood. And then he interviewed me for a couple of days, and he interviewed the people connected with my career. These are different campaigns, but this is how it happened. And he interviewed a lot of people who had something to do with my career. And then he edited it. And we have films from my family, old films and stuff. It was very nice. But then there's also a lot of advice for people as well, primarily about songwriting. So it is a concert film, but it's also more than that. And we are now in the 5th fundraiser for distribution. We had a screening of the film in December, and he's put together a short video of what people said after the film. So it was very successful for the 200 people who were there. But then if you don't raise enough money to get the film distributed or get someone to help you get it distributed, then it just sits there and people remember that one night, how great it was. But no, we really kind of need to get the film distributed. So we're in the middle of a fundraiser now at Indiegogo, and there are lots of wonderful perks. And so I'm hoping that people will go there and at least look at the little video of what people said after the film was over.
Well, this is the common thing in the film industry, right? They have to raise money at every step of the way, but the film is completed now, right? It's completely edited and done.
Yes, it's completed.
this last leg just to get it out into the festivals and get some marketing going and stuff for that. But the film itself is done and remarkable, as the book is remarkable.
Thank you.
Is there something that you wish that, or you hope that, the average viewer of the movie gets out of the movie? Is there something you want them to take away or come away from the movie?
I know it sounds a little, challenging, but I have always wanted to raise the level of songwriting in the world. I want people to realize they are communicating. It isn't, rhyming or, melody. It isn't one thing. It's actually something that comes from a desire to impart a communication. And once people experience someone else doing that, I think it actually helps them do it themselves. So not only will they hear the songs where I did it, they hear the life that led to those songs, and they hear me talking about the craft that achieved it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, Harriet. And, the other thing is working with all these students, and I'm going to ask this question, which I do many people, but, what's the biggest, I know there's a lot of advice that people could give, but what's your biggest piece of advice over your years in the industry that you would give somebody right now that's just starting, that's got a future, but what's your biggest piece of advice for them getting into this?
Well, I deal more with helping people write better songs, not how to promote. That isn't my strong point.
Sure.
I suggest they read novels, they read really good writers, that they read really good poetry. And by poetry, I mean Billy Collins and Charles Bukowski. I don't mean Shakespeare, although you should do that too.
Right.
And they should listen to a lot of music, not necessarily what they want to write right now, but who inspired those people. Listen to Ray Charles, listen to the people who inspired the people you like. And don't be oblivious to anything that happened before you were born, because the people you like learned from the people who learned from them. You might as well go to the source of it. So listen to a lot of things, read a lot of stuff, and then remember that you are communicating, and try not to break that line between your mouth and the audience's ears with illogic or anything of that nature. Just, communicate honestly, but clearly, for heaven's sakes, both musically and lyrically. Don't go in with chords that are in a house of mirrors you can't get out of. Have it make some sense. Find where the tonic is someday. You know what I mean? I know a lot of jazzers like to leave people befuddled, and that's fine. But if you're going to write something that other people can relate to, make sure that it makes sense.
You find that, the generation now doesn't get enough into history about the artists from yesteryear, like we did when we were growing up. I love music history, and sometimes people now don't know who Johnny Mathis is, or who, even Helen Reddy. Some of these names they never heard of. In fact, some people even 15, 20 years ago, they don't remember or know who they are. So do you wish that people nowadays would know history, I guess, of music a little more than they did in the past?
Well, I think it's a mistake not to know things that happened before you were born. Yeah, I do. But they need to listen to Rodgers and Hart. They don't just need to listen to Johnny Mathis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they don't know who these people are, they haven't been listening at all, because most young people I know are still listening to the 70s. They've rediscovered it. They love it because there was melody, there were lyrics you could understand.
Sure.
And, if their next door neighbor is listening, they might decide that it's cool to listen to. So I think that it's a good thing that young people are listening to that, not because I want to live in the past, but because there was really merit there. And if they want to do this art, they should find out the people who did it well. If they don't know who Joni Mitchell is, and I'm sorry that,
Yeah,
they should stop right now.
I
No, I mean,
agree.
not that you should imitate her, but you need to know, who James Taylor, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and these people are from the 70s.
When you write songs, Harriet, obviously you've talked a lot about the importance of communicating effectively, and you've also talked about the importance of emotional impact. But not everybody can achieve the same level of emotional impact that you do in some of your songs. How do you access that? How do you actually find that level of emotional impact when you're writing a song that propels the song for you?
Well, I must say, Dan, you're a damn good writer yourself. So you could ask yourself
That's
that.
why I asked the question, Harriet. I wanted to make sure I got my compliment in, so thank God for that.
No, that's not true. I know. I try to be visual. I try to go to the specific thing that moved me to say this thing, and I access that. I don't just speak in vague generalities. I don't do that. But it's like Natalie Goldberg says, don't say the cat in the window, say the Siamese in the window. So I try to be very specific and visual, which doesn't work if you're writing for film, unless you just put that in the verses and then they can use the emotional chorus in the film. But if you didn't have any of these pictures and you sat down to perform in front of a concert of people and you didn't have any pictures, they'd be talking to the person at the next table. They would not be listening. If you want to get people to listen in a show, you have to give them pictures. I used to have a fireman who was a student. He said people run back into burning buildings for their pictures. You have to give them pictures if you're writing. So one of the ways I get emotional impact is the pictures that put them in their life. For some reason, my pictures draw them into their lives. It's an amazing process.
I have a question about film, writing music for film, because I know how impactful music really can drive a film, either, good or bad. But at the same time, if it overpowers the scene, then it can also kind of ruin the scene as well. So how do you create that emotion for a scene without overtaking it, if that makes any sense? There's a fine line, right?
Well, it depends upon if you're doing underscoring, and what you say is absolutely true of underscoring. I haven't done a lot of that, but I have done some. But if you're writing a song for a film, the chances are they want that song to drive the emotional impact of the scene. And they're not having a lot of dialogue going on at the same time. When I did the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking and The Last Dragon and all these things, I wrote songs that actually helped develop the characters. Like Pippi Longstocking lived alone with a horse and a monkey. And I thought, what do I have in common with this girl? Well, I'm very independent. She's very independent. So I wrote from that viewpoint. And it didn't steal from the scene. It helped develop her character.
How does that happen? How do you, does a filmmaker come to you and say, I need songs for the film and I need you to write something? And then what's that writing process like?
What happened with Pippi Longstocking is I knew someone who knew that I had written Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. He met the director when he had chosen who would play Pippi out of thousands of people. And he said, well, I know the woman who wrote Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. And so this director said, oh, she must be a feminist. Pippi is a feminist. I mean, first of all, my song was not really a feminist anthem, but it was sung by a feminist singer. So they figured, this love song was now a feminist statement. The point is, Pippi was independent, and I got to write all the songs. I brought Misha Siegel in, who scored the movie and wrote the melodies to the songs. I generally write melody and lyrics, but in that case, we wrote all 6 songs together. And they said, if you have 6 songs, you get your name in front of the title. So we managed to get that 6th song in. You can bet on that. But anyway, yeah, I just knew what I had in common with her, and he found me because of something he knew about that I had done.
In your long career, Harriet, is there one thing that you look back on and that makes you smile? And what would that be? Oh,
my heavens, all of it. when I'm writing a song, I think this is my favorite thing. I don't have to do all that other stuff. But then when I'm in front of an audience, no, I would rather do this than anything. So I think some of the shows I've done with my band at small clubs, like the Coffee Gallery backstage, because Bob Stain started my career when he had the Ice House. I dearly love him. He's in the film. They interviewed him as well. And so playing those small clubs and feeling the audience responding, laughing, crying, that to me is, looking back on it, is a very satisfying memory.
Yeah. And then I got to tell you, Harriet, I mean, it's, first of all, I appreciate you being on the Stage Door show tonight. It's just an amazing career that you've had over the years, and Hollywood Town, we can't wait for that, and also people can go to harrietschock.com to see updates on your work, correct? And anything else that you've done. It's an amazing website. I've been looking at this for the last week, and it's been amazing. I really like how you put it together. It's very easy to read, and it's got everything in it. Then you can play music and videos and all. There's a lot of things on here that are interactive, so it's great. Again,
they can also support the Indiegogo campaign there too, right?
If they go to Indiegogo, which is INDIE Gogo, and just put my name in, probably the last campaign will come up. And for a very little amount of money, you can get your name in a shout out. And I would really appreciate the support right now. That would be very helpful. And as far as my website, Randy Tobin, who recorded the sound for the film, he's a versatile guy. He did that website. I just wanted to give him a shout. That's
great. No, he really good job. And there's a lot of great things on here, and it also has the audience reaction to your film, Hollywood Town. So it can inspire those to go to the Indiegogo campaign, because this is a really important film to make, about your career. And, everybody, all my listeners, please go to harrietschock.com and check out the videos and support Hollywood Town, because it's a very important film.
I also have to say that, unlike, sometimes you go to an Indiegogo thing and you support something, they send you a sticker. When you look at some of the things that Harriet is offering to people who are supporting the film, they're kind of amazing, including some of the songs that she's recently written were songs that she wrote because people who donated a certain amount to the making of the film, she actually wrote songs about their lives and their stories. Harriet, talk a little bit about that for a minute, just some of the amazing songs that came out of that.
Yes, the first person to donate for that perk. A perk is something that you get when you give money to a campaign. And that particular perk was $2,500. Certainly not all of them are that much. Don't get scared. But someone donated. It was Harvey Brownstone, who has an interview show, Harvey Brownstone Interviews. And I interviewed him about his life, and it was so fascinating. He was the first gay judge in Canada, and just an unbelievable story. And I was inspired to write this song. And then Jim Keaton, who is Helen Reddy's fan club president, very long-term friend of hers, I wrote a song about his relationship with Helen. And then a fourth person, 5 people have gotten that perk. And 3 of those songs are on my album, Paintings. And it's a wonderful experience for me, because I get to know these people's lives and put it into a song. And I have a bond with these people from then on. It's just an amazing thing. But Harvey Brownstone is the executive producer of the film, and so is Jim Keaton. So it doesn't always work out that way. So you don't have to be executive producer if I write a song for you. But it's a very nice perk, and people seem to love the song. So I'm grateful for that.
And there's sort of a nice Easter egg for people who listen to the album, is that they get to sort of figure out who were the people that those songs were written for on Paintings, and try and get. And it reminds me of it reminds me, like, when we interviewed Don McLean, and he talked about, he wrote one of the songs in his new album is the Ballad of George Floyd, right? And he said the one thing that hit him in that was that George Floyd said he called out for his mother. And Harriet, you do the same sort of thing where, like, you grab on a nugget like that, or you grab onto like one thing that's a picture and has tremendous emotional impact, and that's what creates the song. And so much of what's on paintings does that exact same thing.
Well, thank you. Yes, if you have the actual CD, which I made, and some people actually have it, it has all the lyrics in there, and it says whom the songs were written for on those 3 songs. Because when people listen in the car and they think they're my story, and then my judge is coming out, and someone else is like talking about Helen Reddy, and they think that they're my stories. And most of the songs on there are, but these 3 songs were other people's stories.
You ever find, Harriet, that, when you're sleeping or you dream about something and you have an idea, do you ever like just write it down or jot it down so you don't forget it? I mean, do you ever get things like that, like inspired by just thoughts that come into your head and you write it down for a song?
Yeah, actually, the song My Now, which starts my paintings album, I got the first 2 lines of the chorus as I started to fall asleep in a nap. And I wrote them down, and I thought, what does this mean? And then I realized that it was a scene from my childhood, and the whole song emerged from that, because I was concerned when Tom said he wanted to make the movie that I wouldn't be able to remember things from long ago. So I went to this one scene where I used to go fishing with someone named Ernestine, and then the whole song emerged from that.
That's amazing. Do you have social media accounts that we can talk about for our listeners?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on TikTok quite as much as I should be. But then I'm everywhere. So, X, you name it.
So they just put in your name and they can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, the website's amazing as well. And, again, for my listeners, make sure you go to the website and check it out. Hollywood Town, can't wait to see where that's going to go. And, good luck to you on that. And pay it forward, everybody that's listening. Pay it forward, because as an artist, eventually you're going to have an Indiegogo campaign as well. So pay it forward right now, and definitely, support this film coming up. And, just an honor, complete honor to have you on the show. Harriet, and thank you, Dan, again, for co-hosting the show with me.
It's my pleasure. Listen, I've been studying songwriting with Harriet for many years. It's a life-changing thing, especially for me, by the way. I met my wife, Karen, in Harriet's class, by the way. That doesn't mean that Harriet's class is a dating service, by the way. It just happened to happen that way.
I've had 2 couples get married from meeting in the class.
Wow.
There you go. So there's that perk. But for those of you that are songwriters or want to be songwriters, one of the real benefits for me is being a songwriter, besides reaching that level of emotional impact that I think is so important, is that there's so many songwriters out there that go, yeah, I'm a songwriter, but I haven't written one in months, or I have one that I've started but I haven't finished, that kind of stuff. The nice part about being in class is that you're dedicating a little bit of time and a little bit of resources to actually getting the song written. And so one of the great things about Harriet's class is that you don't just say you're a songwriter, you then suddenly find yourself with a bunch of songs that you've written that have that level of emotional impact because she teaches it so well. So I encourage songwriters to join the class too. And
and there's also
and it's just great to spend some time with Harriet, if nothing else. So there you go.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of nice words from some of your students on your website as well, and they can learn about your class and on there too. So this website just has a lot of great great information in it, and how to enroll in your classes. And for all of us, and I know I have a lot of listeners out in Los Angeles area, so definitely check the website out and take some classes from Harriet. It'll be, like Dan said, life-changing. So again, Harriet, thank you for your time, and just couldn't be more honored to have you on.
Thank you. I've so enjoyed it. And just so you'll know, a lot of my students are even in Europe, so you don't have to live in LA because it's online Zoom. And you get to know each other really well in spite of that.
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up because, nowadays it's with Zoom and Teams and everything else that's out there. You could be anywhere in the world and take these great classes. So again, check it out. And before we end, Harriet, I asked this question, but when it's all said and done, I know you've built a great legacy, in this business. But when it's all said and done, what do you want people to walk away with when they think of Harriet Schock?
Well, when they come to my shows, I think they feel like there is an arc to the show. They're sometimes crying, they're sometimes laughing, but they feel someone else has experienced something they experience. And I survived it, but I also see the cup is half full. I want to help them see the same thing. And so that is my purpose with art, is to lift people. And so I hope they look back and go, I felt better because of her. I learned something because of her, or I can do something because of her.
That's great. That's so well said. Again, thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Dan, again for joining on this show, this episode. And Harriet, best of luck to you in Hollywood Town and everything else you're working with. And of course, everybody online right now listening, make sure that you check out her website, harrietschock.com. So again, we'll post this on our Instagram as well and all of our other social media, Harriet. And, like I said, my best to you. And I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. You as well. And thank you, Dan and Dave, for this wonderful interview.